Yo, what is going on guys, it's Kryptic TMG and I'm back with a brand new video. This time it's round 2 of the GT3 Elite Championship Season 9, and this time we're at Dubai International, and yeah, it was a race I was really looking forward to. Pretty confident in the Renault, maybe not got the ultimate pace, but it's a very steady car and I can sort of rely on the car not to sort of spit me off the track, so felt pretty good about this one. Obviously at the moment second in the championship after finishing second behind CJ at Circuit of the Americas, so yeah, couldn't wait to get stuck into this one and was pretty much hoping to just try and get another podium. Obviously this is also one of Carl's best tracks, so I know Carl will be pretty quick around here as well, and Ronaldo also really fast guy in a Lamborghini, so it's going to be all to play for. I was sure, I pretty much knew what kind of pace Carl and CJ would be able to do. I wasn't too sure how fast Ronaldo would be or how fast anybody else would be. So yeah, it was going to be an interesting race and we're about to get stuck in. So joining me for my best qualifying lap, as you can see, that was Walter's Ferrari lagging again. Same issue that we had last week. I think he was in front of me on the track, so I just kept getting his car lagging and stopping dead in front of me, sort of putting me off again, but this is the best lap I managed to do in qualifying. As you can see at the moment I'm in 4th place and CJ's ahead of me, also Ronaldo in 2nd, and Carl is on provisional pole. Just trying to really secure my top 4 place because I didn't sort of want to get stuck behind anybody else. I knew the guys in front of me definitely will more than likely have the pace on me, so I really just wanted to be able to see if I could sort of hang on the coattails of them and see what I could do. If anyone has any troubles in the race, then maybe I could pick up a couple of spots, and yeah, that was pretty much my plan. But you can see there the Ferrari of Water still just all over the track pretty much, and was putting me off into some of the corners. I didn't attack them as much as I would have if I just could sort of get the image of a Ferrari just sat on the apex out of my head, but still we're up on our time at the moment, about 3.5 tenths up, so yeah, it looks as if we're going to improve, and we already had a sort of couple tenth gap to the car behind us, so if we can make an improvement, then that will make us safe in the top 4. And as we come up towards the last 2 corners, I thought it was a pretty good lap. I was just trying to make sure I didn't extend, because earlier on in qualifying I actually extended going into the last corner on a lap that probably would have been a little bit quicker than this one. So yeah, 34 seconds left of the session and we crossed the line and managed a 34.7, and I did actually carry on after that, but I didn't end up finishing the lap because I extended again. I was actually 2 tenths up, so there was a bit more to come, but I mean, all in all I was pretty happy with the top 4 position. You can see Walter's car in my mirror there just still lagging, but as per usual with AOR, you've got the manual rolling starts, and we set off, and at this point I was actually in the chat party with Carl, and Carl had a sort of issue where his car, he selected his setup but it just pretty much just reset his car back to default. I only gave him 50 litres, so even on the formation lap he already knows that he's out of this one, he knows he's out of the race, and I know pretty much at some stage that's going to be a free position. So it was unlucky for Carl because he definitely had the pace to win this race. Obviously you can see he had the pace in quali as well, and we know that the Ferraris are very fast in a race, very hard to beat. But yeah, as we're about to start this race now, got to bunch up because the line's not too far away from the last corner, but we try to bunch up to get everybody in the pack together, but Carl sort of goes and stops and then goes, and then it sort of catches CJ out having to hit the brakes because he's not allowed to overtake Ronaldo before the start finish line. So that gives us a great run going down into turn 1, and we managed to go past CJ, and we brake late into turn 1, the car goes completely sideways and somehow we managed to hold it, and out of view CJ had the exact same problem, and we were both pretty much sideways at the exact same time. So that, I think that's the only thing that stops us from having some pretty big contact. CJ goes around the outside but drives off the track, and I thought he was going to back off and let me back through, but didn't happen. So we went on. I tried to battle him, I tried to sort of brake really late into this corner because the Renault was quite good on the brakes, but I just couldn't get the car turned in enough, and in the end CJ's up ahead of us, and yeah, the top 3 guys I knew would be pretty quick, and I just thought, I'm not too sure how fast the other guys in the Ferrari will be, because I know the Ferrari has sort of this race pace that tends not to drop off too much. And I knew with the Renault, the race pace does sort of drop off at stages in the race where you gotta sort of just hang on to it a little bit. But as long as I could pull away, as long as I could at least keep within a few tenths per lap of these guys, then I'll be pretty happy. As I said, I knew at this point that Carl was on a default setup with only 50 litres, so I knew pretty much I was just focusing on Ronaldo, CJ and myself, because I knew that Carl, at least even if he pitted, he'd pretty much be out of it, because a pit stop's going to set you back just loads, especially on this track where the pit stop's pretty long. So yeah, just trying to keep up with these guys. Obviously I do a lot of practice with Carl and CJ, so I sort of always know what pace they're going to be running. I already knew prior to the race that it would be very, very difficult to keep up. But yeah, I was still happy with the car because I just knew that I couldn't see myself really making any mistakes. So that is the thing that I'm trying to change about this season compared to last season. Last season I was probably pushing a lot harder in the races, but in the Audi it's just the car is very random. Very fast car, but extremely random. And I just wanted to sort of cut the mistakes out of my game and just bring home as much solid points as I can and see where it puts me in the championship. But yeah, going into the last sector of this track, and the car was getting a little bit understeery at the front. I don't know whether it was because I was behind people, but it tended to happen. You can already see that Ronaldo is already past Carl, and Carl's car obviously not handling how he would have liked to, because I mean it's on default. Some people can drive default setup, but when you've been practicing for a race and you've made your setup and all of a sudden it switches to default, it can really throw you off. You see Carl goes wide there again, really struggling, and yeah, I think it was just a moment of time before I caught up to Carl as well. But he was still, I mean, his pace wasn't exactly disgraceful, but at the same time I knew it was just pretty much in the bag, the position that he had. I knew I'd be getting it at some stage. Yeah, managing to pull away from the guys behind us and pretty comfortable with the pace, pulling quite a big gap on the cars behind us actually. You can see Carl gets on the curb, spins it right in front of us, and he rolls across the track. Somehow I managed to miss him. Had to have pretty quick reactions there because I wasn't too sure which way he was gonna keep rolling, whether he was gonna turn the wheel. So I just chose to drive off the track. I think it was the safest option in the end. Very close to actually getting hit as well, and that would have been a disaster. But obviously that's lost us a bit of time as well now, sort of falling off of the back of CJ and Ronaldo. CJ looking like he had the pace to challenge Ronaldo, but Ronaldo's pace was very strong as well in the Lamborghini. So yeah, that car is really fast down the straights. Might not be as agile as sort of the Renault and the Ferrari through the corners, but it's got some serious straight line speed. And he definitely had a very good setup on that car to have it that competitive around here. But as you can see, up ahead, CJ's managed to get the run on Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo went a little bit wide at the hairpin, and CJ's managed to find his way past the Lamborghini. And we're just hoping, I'm just hoping they battle even more, because whenever they battle, it helps us close in a little bit. If they were just left to their own devices, I wouldn't really be able to catch them guys. It was just, the pace was just too hot up front, and I felt like to get to that pace I would have to absolutely be ringing this car every single lap, and I knew that mistakes would come by doing that. I just wanted to sort of drive fast but stay comfortable and just cut out the mistakes. You can see already they both already got a time penalty. I was trying to avoid any time penalties, anything like that, because also in this league you've got the Project Cars licensing is on, so when you get these penalties and all these things, obviously it affects your license, your rankings and stuff like that. So I'm trying to keep it clean as much as I can, and yeah, hopefully I'll be in good stead near the end of the race. Now fast forwarding some laps, and you can see there up ahead, if you look at the mini map, someone spun, and this Ronaldo spun in the Lamborghini, so that's us up into second place. And this is what I mean about just trying to keep it consistent. You can always pick up positions, you never know what's going to happen, especially after last season as well with Kung Jarnox, who managed to pretty much keep his nose clean for the whole championship. He ended up in second, despite the fact that there were some guys who had definitely had like a faster package and were definitely faster in races, but he just kept it on the black stuff and ended up finishing that championship in second position. So that was pretty much my motto going into this season, just try and keep it clean. I know the Renault probably not the greatest, very nice car to drive, very easy to drive, but not the greatest when it comes to pace. But I feel like I can swing it with the best of them as long as I just stay focused, really. But yeah, you can see we're still behind CJ. CJ pulling out quite a comfortable gap at the minute, and Ronaldo behind us. Obviously, he spun, so his tyres will definitely be losing a bit of grip, and also probably getting a little bit more tire wear, because obviously when you spin, you sort of scrub across the tyres. So yeah, unfortunately there we just get a little penalty, so I actually back off into this corner to let the penalty disappear, and obviously Ronaldo, who was already quicker than us, is catching us again. So yeah, pretty difficult position I'm in at the moment. I wanted to push to see if I could catch CJ, and I think CJ actually had a little moment there. I think he had a little half spin, so that allows us to catch up a tenth or two. But then I look at the minimap and he's off again, and this time he's straight in the wall. So I was thinking, what's going on there? And before the race in the practice lobby, he had some sort of issue with his wheel, and what actually happened is his PlayStation went back to the home menu, the old school Frostmaster PCARS 1 problem that a lot of people are saying they've been getting after the latest patch, and I used to suffer with that problem immensely on PCARS 1. So yeah, pretty unfortunate for CJ, but it promotes us into the lead, so I'm not going to complain too much. And at this point, I think I would be maybe leading the championship if I was able to bring this home, but then we get another cut penalty again, so I slow down in the last corner, but this penalty takes absolutely ages to go. And you see Ronaldo just comes around the last corner, absolutely destroys us. We knew we weren't going to catch him on the straight, so we're down to second place now. And in hindsight, sometimes you think I could have just carried on and just taken the penalty, but on this game you never know how much time you're going to get. I mean, sometimes you can get 1 second, sometimes you can get 3 or 4, so I pretty much just played it safe and just backed out of it. And obviously that's cost us the lead of the race now, and it's going to be very hard to stick with Ronaldo because he's had sort of 3-4 tenths on us each lap, sort of all the time. So very tough to stick with. And you can see that car down the straight, it's just a rocket ship. So even if I could catch him up, I don't really know where I would have passed him, because his cars are so quick. He's pretty much just sort of waiting for a mistake at this point. And yeah, for me, I was pretty happy to still be in the position I was in. I wasn't expecting a second position before the race, but definitely I would have taken that. But obviously if I could win, that'd be even better. But I put myself in a decent position. I feel like I've lapped kind of consistently when I haven't made mistakes. I've been sort of in the same ballpark all race. So yeah, it was just down to me to see if I could keep up with him. And obviously he had a 1 second penalty, so my thinking is just to try and get within 1 second really. But even after the spin and after his tyres started to recover, he managed to catch us so quickly. It was crazy. And obviously with the penalty, obviously that helped close the gap in even more, but he was just always catching us. And Ronaldo, you see him again, he spins there again. I had to avoid him, and this is our opportunity with 20 minutes to go to see if we could sort of just hold on. But you can see there, he's not actually that far behind. I thought he would be sort of 5-6 seconds after the latest spin, but he kept it to a few seconds, and I knew pretty much I'd have to start pushing. But I started looking at the time and looking at my fuel, and in my head I'm trying to calculate it, like, have I got enough fuel left? Have I got enough fuel left? So I didn't want to sort of just rag the car and then end up needing fuel on the last lap. So I was trying to be a little bit cautious because I could see my fuel was going out quick, and I really wasn't sure, to be honest. I stuck 95 litres in, and I thought that would be enough because it normally is, but for some reason I was using quite a bit of fuel this race, and the fuel was going down, and I can tell you at this point I was really worried. But you can see Ronaldo, he's right behind us, got a great run out of the last corner, and just watch the speed of this Lambo down the straight. He gets in the slipstream. I tried to defend it, but it's just no chance. It's so fast down the straight. The Renault not the best down the straight, but pretty good on the brakes. So we managed to brake late, hold it on the apex. Ronaldo's on the outside of us, gets good acceleration at the corner, so I can't sort of cut him off. I back off on that corner to get a better run for this corner, and get on the inside. I wasn't sure if he was going to cut across us or not. That's why I didn't sort of power through the corner. He takes a really wide line in there and gets a good run out. In hindsight, I could have shut the door there just on the exit of that corner, but I sort of left a little bit of space, and you can see the speed of the car. It's just a different level of speed. He must have been running some pretty low downforce because, yeah, he was flying in a straight line. But yeah, for me now, it was like, can I stay within a second? I knew it would be pretty tough because of just the pace he had beforehand, so I felt like if I could just guarantee I could finish the race with this fuel amount, I feel like I could really push in practice. Before the race I started doing 35.2s, 35.3s, and I was pretty comfortable doing that pace, so I knew if I really had to wring the neck of the car, I had some pace there. But the fuel, I just was not confident with the amount of fuel that I had left compared to the amount of time I had left, and I knew wherever the weather, whether I ran out before I reached the line or whether I ran out just after, I knew it would be pretty close. So after a while I just started short shifting because I just wasn't sure if I was going to make it. And it's a really difficult position to be in when you want to go for a win, but you don't know if you're even going to make the finish line. I didn't want to throw away the whole result because, as I said, second position still is pretty good in a race that, to be honest, I never thought I'd be getting second in. So yeah, I was in two minds. I knew it would be very hard to keep up Ronaldo, like just having to sort of short shift and try and save the car, save fuel. But 8 minutes to go, and you can see the fuel was definitely very tight indeed. But I was still setting fastest laps because I still wanted to keep within that second. So there's so much things going in my head while I'm driving, so many things going on. Do I push? Do I try and pressurize him, or do I just give up the win and just focus on saving the fuel? Because obviously if I was to run out of fuel, then CJ would be promoted to second. I would probably have to pit, don't know where I would come out, and it would just be sort of throwing away a podium. So I decided to try and keep the fuel because I think it was a bigger risk to try and race Ronaldo and try and close him down everywhere and sort of just lose everything just for one position. I don't think it was worth it. But you can see our pace is still pretty decent, even though we are starting to short shift and stuff like that. But yeah, 7 minutes to go. At this point I just wanted the race to end. I wanted the race to end. I couldn't calculate and work out the fuel properly, so I just wanted the race to end. And our tyres were good. We kept the tyres in good nick, and actually I never actually got to the 26 PSI that I wanted, which probably would have increased the pace just a little bit, because having 24 is slightly under the best operation window for the tyres. And so 24 on the 5, 24 on the fronts, 25 on the rears, because the weather conditions got changed to clear before the day of the race, because it was supposed to be light cloud cleared and light cloud, so I tuned the tyres sort of for those conditions. But they changed it because the micro glitching that you get, the frame rate issues that you get, and disconnects and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it's something to do with the weather, but yeah, we thought we'd try and eradicate that problem, because in Kota last week in qualifying, I think a lot of people had that frame rate issue, and it was just horrible. There was no grip. The car, the track just felt so weird. But you can see me now, definitely down the back straight, just short shifting, making sure I've got the fuel. Only 12, almost 12.5 litres left. 6 minutes to go. In my head, I'm thinking, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. But yeah, I just thought, well, if I get to the sort of last lap and I can see my fuel indicators going red, I'm just gonna stick it in lean, and I'm just gonna run higher gears and just get off the brakes and roll it into corners and see how much fuel I can save like that. But you can see Ronaldo now just pulling away, and the funny thing is, we were still lapping decently even though we were trying to save fuel. And it was pretty crazy, because the rest of the race, where times where I was pushing, I wasn't even able to do some of these times. But yeah, it was pretty good. I felt like the car felt a lot better than I thought it would at this stage of the race, because normally in the Renault it kind of falls away a little bit, and yeah, it's kind of tough to explain. It's like you always get a period in the race where the car just feels like it just doesn't want to show the pace. It just feels like it doesn't want to turn in, doesn't want to brake, doesn't want to gear down, and for me it's really difficult, and that's where I think a lot of the other GT3 cars lose out to the Ferrari, because the Ferrari's just, even if it may not be the outright quickest, it's just consistent lap after lap after lap after lap. The car just feels the same. But that's something I've struggled with in the past with the Renault, and to be honest in the Audi as well when I used the Audi. But for this race it was pleasantly surprising that the car just seemed to get better, so I was able to sort of not push all the way. See, I'm not really pushing into the hairpins, I'm not really braking super late, I'm sort of just rolling it in a little bit, but we're still doing not too bad at times. And you can see now with 4.5 minutes left, we've only got 9 litres of fuel, so definitely in my mind I was thinking, wow, this is going to be so tight. And at the same time I'm still pretty close to a win, because don't forget Ronaldo's got a 1 second penalty, so yeah, it was all to play for coming up towards the end of the race. And I knew if I got the lead, then that would be me into the lead of the championship after 2 rounds, which I didn't expect, to be honest. Especially at the front of the field, it's pretty strong with Ronaldo, Carl and CJ, very strong field. And yeah, it was just very, I tell you, I couldn't tell you, I was in my head, I was sweating, thinking I'm not gonna have enough fuel, here. And yeah, it was just one of them things, man. Crazy. I always felt like I calculated the fuel right, because 95 litres normally gets you through an hour on most tracks in this game. So obviously with the race set to time and not laps, you're going to have to complete the hour. So whoever's leading the race, depending on what their pace is, depends on how many laps you actually have to do. So with me, I was pretty, in the end I'm kind of lucky that Ronaldo and CJ and Carl had their troubles. Ronaldo had a few spins, Carl obviously with the fuel and the default setup, and CJ with these wheel going back to home menu, because if they had been any quicker and they would have done sort of more laps, I could have really been struggling, because obviously the further you are ahead, then you might end up having to do more laps than someone who's done sort of a slower race time. So in my head I was just thinking, man, I hope this is going to last. But I sort of calculated once I got to 7 litres that I'd actually be able to make it, so I felt like I could start pushing again, because I knew, I think it was like was it like 2.8 or something like that per lap. So I pretty much knew, look, we've only got 2 laps to go, so I know that I'll be able to make it now. I know that I'll be able to get to the end, so I felt like I can start pushing and see if I can just somehow close that gap to under a second. Even if it's 9/10, that would give me the win, because he has a 1 second penalty. And yeah, that was pretty much my thinking. Just try and close the gap, try and pressurize him into a mistake at the end. Hopefully if he sees me being able to close down on him a little bit, then he might sort of lose his head a little bit, might make a small mistake, because I was never going to challenge him. I was never going to try and throw him up the inside if I did catch him. I just literally would have just sat right behind him and crossed the line right behind him. So it was really tense, even with the fuel, with everything, it was a lot of pressure on the race, even though it seemed like I had sort of not a boring race, but not really much to fight for. It was a lot of pressure when you're trying to race someone, catch someone, trying to save fuel. Everything seemed to be going on. The lead was changing, and we had how many? 4 different leaders. It was a crazy race, really crazy. Not that much wheel to wheel action for me, but I always feel like at the moment I'm sort of in a sort of class on my own. These guys got a little bit more pace up ahead, and yeah, for me it's sort of just keeping those clean, always keeping those clean, always don't make any mistakes, and 1 minute remaining. I'm sure I'll be somewhere near the podium. So you can see now as we come up to, this will be the final lap, because there's only 50 seconds left of this race. So I now know I'm safe on fuel, and I now know on the last lap I can just give it everything and see what I can do. Even if I spin, I've got enough time behind me to recover and still keep the position. But you can see we're still improving on our lap times, 55.6 on that lap just there. which from practice was a little surprising because I always got slower and slower. I never actually got faster and faster. So yeah, felt pretty good. The car felt good, and this is all about how much I could wring this last lap out. And Ronaldo driving really well. He's not really making any mistakes. Obviously, apart from the spins he had earlier, but since he's got the lead, and he would have known as well that he has to keep the gap, so it would have been a lot of pressure on him as well. So with only sort of a few corners to go, approaching the last sector, I knew he was actually quite quick in the last sector, and this is one of the sectors where I was struggling. That corner there, for some reason, I just seemed to get understeer in the race, and before that it was a really good corner for me, that corner, because I could sort of almost take it flat out, but for whatever reason in the race I just couldn't do it, and I could see that Ronaldo still had enough of a gap, and it was going to be very hard for me in these last few corners, unless he made some sort of mistake, for me to sort of dislodge him from the win. We brake really late in the second last corner, get it sideways. You can see really trying to manhandle the car, but you can see that Ronaldo, he definitely had the time he needed. And going into the last corner, obviously we just didn't have enough. He didn't make any more mistakes, and I couldn't really close him in anymore. I did close him down a little bit, but not enough. And we crossed the line with 1.1 litres of fuel left. In the end, I was really happy with the position, our second position of the season. But also, if you want to catch the live broadcast of the race, remember you can watch it on Apex Online Racing on YouTube, and you can catch the live broadcast with commentary and everything like that. So yeah, keep posted. It's Kryptic TMG. Like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Peace!